What up? What up? What up? It's Mr. 6 Feet 8. Where all of my fun sizes at? You know, like fun size like the candy? Yeah, that's what y'all call. That's what I'm calling y'all. So deal with it. So tonight we are going to talk about my coming out story. So I know a lot of well, I don't want to say a lot of people, but funny thing happened this week. So I was on well, I don't want to say T.S. Madison, but it was T.S. Madison's daughters, and she calls her child her daughter, and her daughter name is Chi Chi, and Chi Chi is a boy, but he gives off total film. So with that being said, um, yeah, I was on his live, and needless to say, I joined his live, and in the midst of that, there was a conversation that was had in regards to my attraction towards what is my attraction, what kind of as far as what is what do I like, what turns me on, things of that nature. So it got me to thinking. I said, "Ho."
Myself said, what?
I said, you know what? You never really did talk about your coming out story like that much, as far as like from a public perspective. And I think a lot of that was because of the fact that I, I grew up in the South. So I grew up in a small town outside of Atlanta. I call it the pretty much Timbuktu is what I call it. We're just gonna call it Timbuktu for now. But yeah, I grew up in a small town of I don't even know what the population is, but basically, Walmart would be considered our mall. And growing up in this small town, one of the things that I'm sure as many of you all can relate, there's not a lot of gay people as far as out. Like you have a lot of what we call back in the South, DL, trade, things of that nature. And so because of that, people are just not as expressive. They're not as affectionate. They're not, they're just not forthcoming about what they do behind closed doors. So because of that, it's just kind of one of those things to where you do what you do, but you keep your business to yourself, and that's it. And being that I grew up in the church, that's what I was taught. So, when I was a little child, I grew up in what started out to be a mother and father home, ended up being a single parent home because my parents divorced at an early age back in 1994. I think I may have probably been like 6, maybe 5 then. And during that time, it was kind of tumultuous as far as things pertaining to my relationships with, my father and mother, because whenever you grow up in a household full of violence and alcohol, and being that my father, was an alcoholic, and, he was abusive towards my mom, it's kind of one of those things to where you really don't it's just one of those things to where it changes your perception of love. And my perception of love was definitely jacked up, because what I thought to be love was really not love. So when you add that on top of I was molested at an early age, and that's another thing that I've also been kind of very open about, because of the fact that I do understand some people in this lifestyle, as far as being gay, may have been molested at an early age. And that was one of the things that I think Chi Chi actually talked about on a live that I saw with him and Miss Mary, T.S. Madison's mother, is that, if I'm not mistaken, he was molested. And I can't remember if I think he mentioned that he still felt this way. Now, for me, I guess you could say I still did feel like there could have been some inner, like, feminine or gay tendencies that led me to kind of like feel like this could have always, this could have always been in me even before like any of that stuff happened. But as I got older, I did start to date females. Like I did have like, as far as my first girlfriend, I went on dates with females. I've messed around with females and such. And so, basically it just was a confusing time because I was trying to figure myself out. And here it is, you got a young man, grew up in the country, not really familiar with anything else but the country. So, of course, there's a lot of closed-mindedness in the country. And because of that, it's just one of those things to where, I didn't know who I was. And because I did not know who I was, it made it hard to decipher as far as who is Tristan as a person. The person that you see today took some time to get to because back then I was all over the place. So needless to say, growing up in a single parent house, parents divorcing, back when I was a little child, it was very hard, very tough. I got bullied a lot. I was always, bullied because I didn't fit into what people would consider, as far as the kids at school, consider to be like a tough guy. I've always been a sensitive person. I've always been intact with my emotions when it comes to expressing, as far as how I feel, not being afraid to cry in front of people. Like that's just been who I have known myself to be. And I feel like that a lot of that has came from the fact that seeing so much growing up, it has just made me, like I said, it has shifted my perspective of what love is to be. So, fast forward, it's like when you lack something, as a child or as a younger version of yourself, as you get older, you start to search for those things, and those things tend to bring the more sensitive side out of you. So for me, I was searching for love in all of the wrong places. So fast forward to high school. If I recall correctly, I think I actually made a decision to drop out around the 11th grade, I want to say. And a lot of that was because of the fact, was not because of I couldn't finish academically. I mean, I've always been a smart person, but I wasn't focused in school like I should have been because I was going through a lot of mental issues. And that's something that I feel like we as Black people, not even just take away the gay part, but we as Black people don't really talk about a lot, is mental health, because we are ashamed or we feel like it makes us crazy. Well, I am here to tell you, I am the king of mental health. I have had my share of mental issues as far as it pertains to depression, suicide, everything, like anything you can think of, you name it. And so because of that, it was one of those times to where it just made life difficult. And I made the decision. I said, you know what? Let me just get on with my life. So needless to say, I dropped out in 2006. As a result, I went and got my GED as soon as I dropped out because I knew at that point I wanted to go to college. And I enrolled in college. Thankfully, that worked out for me better because now I was able to not get away from all of the bullying, being bullied, being picked on, not having to deal with going through all of that. And so it kind of allowed me to now come forward to the era of being more myself, as far as in terms of trying to find myself. So needless to say, and for the sake of protecting people's privacy, I'm not calling no names. So we just gonna call this person John Doe.
Who's the girl that calls you?
I don't know.
Tell me his name.
John Doe.
See, you thought I ain't know that. Thought I ain't know nothing about that. Get into it. The 90s era. Public announcement all the way, baby. But yeah, so fast forward, 2007, I met a guy named John Doe. And I was minding my business, just a regular day, nothing too much going on. I think I was running some errands and met this guy. Well, first of all, before I even go there, let's back up.
Rewind.
So Before I actually withdrew from school, I dated a girl in school, and we just gonna call her Precious, okay? Don't ask me why I'm calling her that, but that's what we gonna call her. Dated a girl named Precious. We hit it off. Everything was good. Me and Precious never messed around. But we always had that connection with one another. You know how you meet a person and you just automatically vibe? Our chemistry was off the chain. And to be honest, aside from, there was one girl back in middle school who I actually had, like I guess if you want to call it puppy love relationship with, all the way to ninth grade, because it started out as puppy love but kind of blossomed into something serious. Aside from her, this other girl was the only girl that I was actually attracted to, aside from her. As far as the girl back in my middle school days. The reason why we're not talking, well, we didn't talk as far as, continue our relationship, is because it just became a thing to where we grew apart. I think we started having like differences as far as, matters of opinions and things that I probably did to screw stuff up. But needless to say, we are good friends. Now, I will say that the girl back in middle school, did introduce me to my first kiss with a female. I can definitely tell you that I did enjoy it a lot. But for whatever reason, things just didn't work out. So fast forward, met the girl Precious, and when I relocated to another town, me and Precious hit it off. We had great chemistry. She was goofy like me. The girl, it just seemed like she was never in a bad mood. And I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to her. And so, basically, long story short, that was kind of a bit of a drama situation on and off. She, did a lot of things that was childish, as with a lot of people back in school. People make mistakes. And needless to say, eventually it became to the point to where we stopped talking. But I will say that I was super hurt that we do not talk even to this day anymore. Unlike the first girl who I had the first kiss with. But I've learned to let go and forgive and move on and just be content with the fact that, sometimes things just don't work out for the best. So anyways, fast forward to all of that. Get out of school, in college, got a good job, doing my own thing, working for an IT company. And boom, out of nowhere, I meet this guy by running an errand one day. And I don't know what possessed me for me to exchange numbers with him, but we exchanged numbers. One thing led to another, and baby,
Don't watch no TV. Take your ass to bed.
that hookup, that first time,
Ain't nothing like the first time. Can tell you I can blow your mind. Baby, if I touch you here and kiss you here.
which I know about that. But on a serious note, yeah, so met this guy, and needless to say, we hooked up because that's what it was, a hookup. My gullible ass thought it was a relationship because we had sex one time. But I will say that after that night, I was officially turned out. And after that happened, I now have become introduced to a full-on situation of where I am now curious to see what this new way of life, should I call it, plays out. So, fast forward, me and the guy that hooked up, we do not actually talk anymore, but back then, during that time, he kind of went a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because, yes, I was paying that phone bill, and yes, I was bringing him food and doing all the other dumb shit that people do back when they young. Get into it. Do as I say, but not as I do. So because of that, it became a thing to where I got fed up and I said, fuck it. And I just, let bygones be bygones. And I moved on with my life. And so fast forward, I think it was at that point to where I realized that, okay, clearly this is something that you've been deep down wanting to explore, Tristan. So let us explore it. And from there, it just became a thing of where over the, past couple of years, I actually, well, I won't say couple of years because maybe it was like, I don't even, come to think of it, I don't even think that I was even out to my family until, you know what? Because, this has been, y'all got to excuse me, this has been long ago. When I say long ago, I am 31 now. This happened back around 07-ish. So that first hookup that I was talking about with that guy, that happened back in 07. So let's rewind back to that moment. So after all that stuff happened and old dude started tripping because of the fact that I basically cut him off from a lot of stuff that I was doing for him, he threatened to out me to my family. So as a result, what happened was, now that it's coming back to me, is that I said, well, you know what? If this dude want to spill my tea, I may as well see him and spill it for myself. So basically, long story short, I told my family, I said, hey, I like dick, and that's just what it was. And pretty much, make a long story short, I think I did spend maybe like a week or two out of the house after kind of being sort of put out because my mom, she was not down for that. She was, my mom is a Christian woman. So, that was not how she got down. My brother is not gay, and clearly she was not about to have a gay son, period. So that took some guts because, and I think had it not been for that happening, as far as me getting involved with Mr. Crazy, we just gonna call him Mr. Crazy, okay? So me getting involved with Mr. Crazy, had that not happened, the fact that, he made me upset because I thought we was in a relationship, and when I found out that we wasn't, I cut his shit off. And when I cut his shit off, then he comes to him blowing my phone up about while I cut his phone off, and then come telling me that he gonna out me to my family. Had it not been for that, I probably would have went on and on and on without saying anything in regards to me coming out. Because now that I have, at this particular point, because of I was forced to come out because of the fact that, I had got involved with this guy who ended up being kind of Looney Tunes. It ended up being a thing of, now I'm having to kind of do stuff based on somebody else's time frame when I wanted to do it on my own time. But I guess the beauty of that, is that it allowed me to kind of, start really embracing who I, felt like I was at that particular point in my life. And the reason why I say that is because fast forward to now, there's two different people, because I think differently than I did back then. And what I mean by that is that back then, I had never saw myself going back to a female after I had came, because I felt like at this point, bitch, you done slept with somebody. You done slept with a whole nother man with a third leg. So, I mean, at this point, ain't no going back. But what I had to come to realize is that over time, I found myself still attracted to females. I found myself still looking at females' as far as like when they walk by. I still found myself daydreaming about, as far as like, damn, I wonder what life would be like if me and this girl was married. And there are actually still a few people who I have crushes on that are females out there. And the reason why I have not said anything about it to them is because of the fact that they pretty much know that I have lived my life as a gay man. So it has brought me to the question of, fast forward now, I identify as bisexual. Really, I can say that I identify as pansexual. For those of you that don't know what pansexual is, it's more like you're attracted to a person's energy. Like you don't really have a specific type, gender, preference, but you're attracted to what you're attracted to, and that's just it. And so between the time that I came out and now, as far as everybody knowing about me, as far as, you know, what I've done in life and everything, because I, you know, of course, had to make it public, as I told you. It became a thing of where I have dated trans women. And that has also been an experience in itself, which I will, you know, discuss on another video, because that's like a whole nother chapter within itself. I have dated, you know, women. I have dated men. I have dated butch queens, bottoms, tops.
You name it.
And I've done it. So needless to say, I've had a full-on experience with a lot of things and a lot of people from all different backgrounds. I say that to say love does not have an identity when it comes to who, what, when, where, and why of the whole situation. It's just that if you love a person and you're passionate, then you just love a person. I mean, there's nothing else you can do. So with that being said, this is something that I am learning to still embrace within myself, as far as being okay with knowing that I am different, being okay with not worrying about what straight people think about me as far as my struggle, because at the end of the day, don't nobody know as far as my struggle of how I came to be where I am at now. Are there days to where I wish that I was still straight? Yes, I pray constantly. Like, God, if this is not meant for me, then change it. Like, because the truth, you know, of the matter is, it's very hard out here to date when you have such a broad, as far as range of, you know, things that you like, because not everybody is cool with that. Not everybody is open-minded with dating somebody who doesn't have a preference. Like, you would think in these times that we have, like, you know, evolved, but we as humans, some of us still have that same closed-mindedness. And so it is because of that, you know, I've come to realize that, okay, God, you know, whatever you have for me in your will, let it be done. Now, I don't believe in pushing my religious beliefs off of anybody else, but I will say that for me, I am trusting that no matter what is for me is for me. So if it is meant for me to be with a man, it's going to happen. If it is meant for me to be with a woman, it's going to happen. If it is meant for me to be with a trans woman, it is going to happen, no matter what. And that is something that I hope that if somebody is watching out here to where you may struggle with accepting yourself as far as being, you know, being okay with who you are, I just want you to know that there are people out here like you who doesn't fit into a particular category. And sometimes it is okay to be outside of the box. Sometimes everybody is not meant to be inside of a box, because some people you cannot box in, period. So don't want to make this video long, because I think it's already like almost 15 minutes, if not over that. But, you know, if you want to see more content, you know, this is something new that I'm trying. This is kind of like to help me grow as a person as well. So this is kind of like my diary. So I can look back on this and be like, dog, you know, I used to be in this mindset back then. But needless to say, follow me on Instagram, Mr. 6 feet 8. That's MISTER, the number 6, FT, and the number 8 is probably right here somewhere too. I'm going to post it. You can follow me on Facebook, Mr. 6 feet 8, and you can follow me on YouTube, Mr. 6 feet 8. So if you like this, please like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Peace.